good morning, a pleasant good morning to one and all. Well, good evening, good night, wherever you are. Welcome to another episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. Today is August the 2nd, 2023. So here we are once again to bring you good information. So share the live, let people know that we're on, and we are going to bring you some information. I'm sure you're gonna find very interesting, as usual, very interesting information. My colleague is already in the studio or waiting, anxiously awaiting to join me to bring you the information. So share the live, let people know that we are on and we are ready to go. We are ready to go. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. Welcome one and all. Welcome one and all. I am so anxious this morning. We have so much again. We have so much to tell you. So much to tell you. And I have noted that from very early, the students are there in the schoolyard waiting for the information. We are not going to disappoint you. We are not going to disappoint you because we have so much to tell you. But share the live. I see numbers are mounting. Share the live. You know the usual thing when we get there in the morning from the time the program is scheduled. The YouTubers are here very early, ready to go. And when we go live, as we did a few moments ago, then the people on Facebook will pour in. I want to encourage you all to go to YouTube and to subscribe to the channel and also to hit the notification button so that you can get notification whenever the program goes live. You know, we have a schedule, 11 o'clock on Wednesday. We have had a few what we call extraordinary programs outside of that time. So when you subscribe to the channel, if we are to have one of those extraordinary programs, you will be notified. You are going to be notified. So the safest thing to do is to subscribe to the Facebook channel, the YouTube channel, and also on the Facebook page. You can like the page and you will be notified. Yeah, Doreen says she like me Ghana shot. Yeah. Don't like it too much. She liked me Ghana shot. You know, yesterday was Emancipation Day, the 1st of August, 2023. Slavery was abolished in Ghana on the 1st of August, 1838. And therefore, yesterday would have been Emancipation Day. And traditionally, African descendants like me and others would put on your African garb, the colors and so on. So I thought it fit in today to wear my Emancipation shirt. Thanks, Terrence. Terrence, you like the shirt? So thanks, Terrence. Yeah, so share the live, and we are going to be here. As I said, this is the day that the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. Let's give praise and thanks to be in the land of the living. So many persons have not been this fortunate. So whenever we wake up and we see the new day, we should give praise and thanks. It is not by accident that we are here to celebrate a new day. So therefore, don't take anything for granted. Give praise, give thanks to the Maker for allowing us to be here and to be a part of this very, very informative, very, very educational program. So yeah, share the live and let us know that we're here. You know, we have come to an agreement by consensus that the roll call is very, very important. The roll call is very important. So despite the fact that some people felt that it took up too much time, as I said, by consensus, most people last week agree, say, hey, roll call is important. And I did say to the person who had expressed some concern about the time the roll call take, I said, any good lecturer, and I considered myself as a good lecturer, will, at the commencement of the session, have what we call icebreaker. You come into the classroom, you try to relax the class, you know, and that is what this roll call and these chit chats are about. You relax the class so that when you're ready to give the information, they are receptive. You don't just walk into a class and go straight into the subject. No. That's not up. Well, if people do that, that is not the correct way. That is not the way to teach. That is not the way to relax your class so that you can impart the information. You do your icebreaker, they call it. And I remember at the police college in the UK, when I went there, icebreakers, they had a whole volume of different games and different things that you can do to serve as icebreaker. And I saw in class this morning. Bikonchima was there very, very early. George was there very early. Then followed by Vibert. Wayne out of the UK was here. Welcome again, Wayne. My squad mate, Carlton, early in class this morning, 9430. His number is there. And then we had Anthony in class. Patricia G. Patricia GG. She would know what I'm talking about. Patricia Gravesandi G. She was in class very early. Jakey, regular. Don't miss the class. You don't ever miss class, Jakey. Very good student. Then you have Winston. Winston is another very, very good student from Ontario, California. Don't miss classes at all, at all, at all. Then we had Patricia, was in very early. She said she's waiting for class to start. Then Aileen, my good friend, Aileen is here very early too. Joan was here very early. Then my old partner, Leon, 10025, here very early. Francis, my fellow Leo, my fellow Lion, Raul was here. Then we had Felicia. Then we had Cecile, Delightful Wednesday. Then we had a Rastaman. Rastaman was here early with us. Too. Barbara came in. Then we had Colin, Isabella, Floyd. Floyd said, good morning, Floyd. Colin from Queens is here very early. OTSU man. Colin, welcome. Colin, welcome. Chetred was here. Jacko, I noted where you are now, boy. Jacko there in Corriverton, hometown, Corriverton, Jacko. Welcome, Jacko. Then we had Gordon, old police, 6659. Very old police. Welcome, Gordon. He has been here frequently as well. Bonita is here, just from West Coast Bobbies. West Coast Bobbishan in the house. Lucius was here very early. He is here very early for his credible and valuable information. Vernon came in there. And then we had Como, 8218 Como, very early is here this morning, always in class. Bart, Sean, ex-sergeant, Sean, waiting from New York. We're not going to disappoint you, Sean. You have some things to talk about that I'm sure you're going to find very interesting. Princess from Lamar Springs was here very early, waiting to join class. Michael B, 14126, Michael B from British Virgin Islands here. Then we had the one and only Chilo. Brennan came in next. And then my shooting partner from namesake from Canada, Paul Archer. We had Stian, Terrence, TK, 9135 TK, old TSU man, and he went to construction section. We were all there together. Carl, my squad mate from Arizona, was here, 9414. Then we had the original black man. Well, you gotta, if you're original black man, you must have celebrated a lot yesterday. Original black man came in. He's from Philadelphia. He came in, and we had David Lindo came in class. Desiree was here. Tessa, regular Tessa. Clay was here as well. Clay is in classroom very, very early in the schoolyard. Then we have David in the class. Malcolm, welcome, Malcolm. 9218, Malcolm. 72B, course 72B. Mine was 74, so it was just before me. Then we had Heather was here as well. Then Pito, 8152 Pito in class. Then we had all the way from Toronto, Canada, 9795 Terrence in class. Then Kerry came in. Oh, Zaki, it was nice speaking to you the other day, man. Nice speaking to you, Zaki. Hope we can catch up at some time. Then we had the DJ Ice Rider. DJ Ice Rider, he said from Covent Garden, East Bank, Demerara. Gene was here. Danny's a long time I hear from you, my old detective Danny. And very good athlete. I remember in the days Danny was a good high jumper. Remember that very well, Danny. Maureen came in. Then my squad mate, Doreen, W349, was here. She all the way from Canada. Denise came in. Philippa. I can't remember seeing Philippa before. Welcome. Johnny was here. Monica. Anne in classroom. Sheila, another squad mate of mine, W351. Brian in class. Pauline in class. John Knight. Welcome, John. Welcome in class. And then we had John Fraser in class as well. Emerson was here. Philip came in. Dennis Pompey was here. Again, Dennis, don't miss these classes. Always have something very good to offer. Evelyn, then when we went live, the first person to come on Facebook was Abnud. Abdul from SC Cable Coast. Welcome, Abdul. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And then Melina William Lynette from Barbados was here. Commissioner Cole, Pam came in. Cheryl, another regular. Welcome, 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 welcome. Well, we're gonna do some more roll call a little later, but I think we need to get started. I want to first of all extend emancipation greetings to all African descendants. You know, yeah, as I said earlier, yesterday was 1st of August, Emancipation Day. I guess they would have had lots of activities around, starting with the West Coast Borby Soiree, which is a spectacular event, start on the 31st of July, well into the morning with libation and drumming and all of that. So congratulations to all of us. Our foreparents were enslaved for over 400 years, and because of their indomitable spirit, they were able to break the shackles of slavery. And, you know, on the East Coast, they purchased land, they went into agriculture, and they, despite all the adversities, the plantation owners flood them out, and they did all kind of things to keep them down. But they were able to show their resilience and to prosper. And we need to reflect on all of those things. We need to reflect. It was not an easy road. I mean, 400 years. And let me say this. The most abominable crime ever committed against humans was slavery. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Imagine that when you read and you see what our foreparents went through for all those years. The culture was taken away, the language taken away, and everything. They were raped, they were sodomized, they were brutalized for 400 years. And I want us to reflect and think on that. So yes, congratulations. We are still going through issues, and we must continue to struggle and to battle and for our survival. And some people will say some of us are not really emancipated. We were freed from slavery, but some say that our minds are still we are still enslaved by our minds and our actions and all of that. So yeah, yesterday was that day. And I need to also thank all of you who extended birthday greetings to me. Last week, Thursday, was my natal day. And look, I was overwhelmed, I was overjoyed with the number of sentiments expressed and the number of persons who came out. To hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of persons came out to wish me happy birthday. And as I said then, I think it was Wednesday when we had the program, the day before my birthday, I said I had one all the years. I know my birthday, one birthday, 27th of July 55. That was it. So those of you who have more than, well, not you, those of them who have more than one, make sure you get the correct one. And we'll talk about that a little as we go on. So, and you know, last Thursday, my birthday, I had to be in court with these trump-up charges that were brought. And can you imagine, last week Thursday, it would have been 2 years and 69 days since the charges were instituted against me and others. And it was only last week, after 2 years and 69 days, the prosecution was able to file statements, in other words, disclosure, to say these are the statements that they attempt to use against us. The good thing then is that the magistrate set September the 25th for the trial to commence. They have been dodging and they have been running. Imagine they instituted a charge on the 19th of May 2021. And every time it came up was some excuse, something they're going down, and they put it off, they're asking for postponement and all of that. And I noted, Conway was in court with me, I noted, again, this time around, is a court case that is done by Suku, the fraud charge. I noted new prosecutor. So the prosecutor was there on the last 2 or 3 occasions. He was not present this time around. This time around, police deputy superintendent, can't remember his name now. He is the person who appeared on behalf of the prosecution. Now the magistrate made it clear that having regards to the fact that she took time to allocate days, she allocated many days for the trial. She hoped that no one comes up with any frivolous excuse for further postponement. And I'm hoping that if they attempt to do that, the magistrate will do what she has to do. This thing has been going on too long, and you get a case, you say that you conspirated to commit fraud, and so come on, bring it on, man, bring it on. But as I've said before, the prosecutor, yes, thank you. The prosecutor there was Jeffers, Deputy Superintendent Jeffers, who incidentally is the man now in charge of SOCU. So he is the person who appeared on behalf of the prosecution, and from all indication, he just jumped in. He didn't know what's going on. So I am expecting that when the matter comes up, when the trial starts on the 25th of next month, that they are going to be ready to proceed. So yeah, we were there last week in court. Now, I see Ulrich, I see all other cricketers, and I think cricket is not a nice thing to talk now with all the blows West Indies taking, but at least you had a consolation win on the second ODI. And if you're a real cricket lover, then you would have had, I'm sure you would have enjoyed the series between Australia and England that ended 2-2. And again, a lot of controversy in that. So I hope you would have enjoyed that. And the sad news, we have to announce the death of Dr. Roger Luncheon. Dr. Roger Luncheon died this morning. For those of you who don't know, Dr. Roger Luncheon was the former head of the Presidential Secretariat and Cabinet Secretary under the well, he started there as Cabinet Secretary since 1992 when PVP came into power. Dr. Luncheon was the man there. Then last week I heard that he had some issues. He lost a leg. A leg was amputated, and people said that he wasn't doing too well. So this morning, this was announced that he passed away. Now let me say this. And I don't want to be controversial, but I'm saying this from experience. Dr. Luncheon was perhaps the only Afro-Guyanese in the PPP with real power, Dr. Luncheon. He wielded real power. I remember in 1994 when I was sent to take over the Presidential Guard, to be head of the Presidential Guard. The commissioner then, Larry Lewis, briefed me before I took over, and he told me in no uncertain manner that if I needed any help, I needed any issue to be resolved, go to Dr. Luncheon. He said Dr. Luncheon is the man who was running things. He tell me plain, he said, don't bother with the president, don't go to the First Lady. If you have an issue, go to Dr. Luncheon. And I've had many interactions with Dr. Luncheon. The thing about Dr. Luncheon, let me say this. Dr. Luncheon, in communicating with you, was a down-to-earth man. He's a banner this, a banner was the matter with you, banner, and that type. He always put you at ease when he communicated with you. That doesn't mean that you're going to get what you went to him for, but he had a way of communicating with you to put you at ease. And then, of course, people say he butter you up, and then he does the shaft in you. But, he was like that. Well, he has gone to the great beyond. Just goes to show, no matter how powerful you are, your day is coming. The day of reckoning is coming. No matter how powerful those are people who are there, they tell lies on people, they cheat, they rob, they worship money, and they do all type of things to acquire money. All kind of things to acquire money. You will have to leave all of that one day and go your way. And I say this again, Dr. Luncheon was the most powerful Afro ever in the PPP party. I say this from experience. I remember reading some time ago one of the foreign missions saying to someone who was coming that if you want anything done, Dr. Luncheon was the man to go to. Some people say, yeah, he was a wicked and he was a vindictive man. I have no doubt about all of those things. But I'm telling you from my experience, he put you at ease. And we know the power that he wielded. And if he said that this thing is to happen, it will happen. So Dr. Luncheon has passed on. May his soul rest in peace. I think they say he was about 72 or 73, even though some people argue that he looked much older than that, but he was around that age. So the doc has passed on. He had a lot of health challenges, with his knees. He couldn't climb steps and all of that. And to move on, then we had the death too of a rank. The older folks might know she worked at the police officers' mess for some years, and I'm talking about Kublal, Elizabeth Kublal. She died a few days ago. The word came that Kublal died a few days ago. People remember Elizabeth at the officer mess, very quiet, very unassuming person. And this morning too, we got news that Constable 22612, Bonnie Jones. Bonnie Jones passed away last Thursday. And Bonnie Jones, for those of you who may not know, he was the son of the late Charmian Jones, Senior Superintendent Charmian Jones, who was the person in charge of the police band. So Bonnie died last week. He went so quickly after his mother, I guess grief and all of that. And karma, a lot of the thing that people did to that woman and so on, karma is going to catch up with them. I believe in that. Karma is going to catch up. And Carl is asking, who next? Well, let's wait and see, because not so long ago, another PVP stalwart, Ashton Chase passed, Dr. Luncheon passed, we had Bibi Sadiq passed, we had this woman, Fireball, Philomena Shuri, passed. So we all have to go. We all have to go at some stage. No matter how much power we wield, no matter how much lie we tell, no matter what we do to remain in office, the time is coming when we all have to go. Now let me bring in my co-host and colleague, CC. CC, good morning. I'm sure you would want to join with me and extend condolences to all those, the relatives of those who have passed.
Sure, I wish to express my deepest sympathy to the relatives, family of those persons who passed. And I concur with you that Dr. Luncheon was a powerful man. I remember in discussion with myself, my cousin, the late Lambert Marx, who was head of Canoe, head of the custom. And Lambert said, Doc, you behaving like you is Jesus Christ. And he said, comrade, I'm not Jesus Christ. I'm St. Peter. I controlling who go in and who come in. that was a man. Very, very powerful. But as we say, we must go sometime. And I'm happy to be in the land of the living and to do God's work.
Yeah, welcome, my brother. Welcome. Now let me move on. You have a very, somebody sent a message to me this morning. Let me see if I could pull it up and read it. Somebody sent to ask me. They said now that the man who sits in the chair has passed the rates of retirement. What is his position? I can't put me up on it right away. Well, let me make the point here now. Because there's one of the subject I have to have for us to speak and to educate and to inform persons about. The man who sits in the chair of the Commissioner of Police celebrated his birthday, celebrated his 55th birthday 2 Saturdays ago, the 22nd of July 2023, he celebrated his 55th birthday. We know that the retirement age of public servants, including the Commissioner of Police, is 55 years. Now, the public service rules or protocol is that when you reach your 55th year, under normal circumstances, the person would have been on leave and all of that. So you work until, or you remain in the public service until the last day of the month in which you were born. So in this case, you're born in July, and the 31st of July is your last working day. When the 1st of August, midnight of the 31st of July, 1 second into the new day, you are a civilian. Let me understand this thing clearly. Let me repeat that. You retire at 55 in the public servant, and this is not debate as to whether 55 is too young, as some people have claimed. That is not the point. The point is, in the public service in Guyana, the retirement age is 55. Now, the protocol is that, so even if you attain 55 on the first day of the month, the rule allow you to remain in the service until the last day of the month in which you were born. Now, the first day of the next month, in this case, the first day of August, you are a civilian. You are a civilian. You have all your powers would have expired. You have no power as a policeman. You have no power as a policeman. You have no power as a commissioner of police. Let me understand this thing clearly as we can get it. You are a civilian. And I said, I made a note here, whatever the authority you would have had by virtue of your office as a constable or by virtue of your office as the commissioner of police, on the first day of August, and that is as soon as the midnight bell pass, changing over from one day to the next, you are a civilian. I'm going to give you some examples. And I make the point here, and I hope the lawyers, I know a lot of people listen to this program, even not live, they listen to it later. I hope that the lawyers are going to look at it and take this up, because I'm saying that there is no lawful authority for the extension, for the president to extend. And now let me read it right away. Let me tell you what the Constitution says. You know, I like doing research. Article 211.3 of the Constitution. Again, Article 211.3. I hope Selwyn and all those other persons are listening. Article 211.3 says that subject to the provisions of the next following paragraph, the Commissioner of Police shall vacate his or her office when he or she attains such age as may be prescribed by Parliament. Let me go back that again. It says, subject to the provisions of the next following paragraph, the Commissioner of Police shall vacate his or her office when he or she attains such age as may be prescribed by Parliament. Now, the prescribed age is 55. Parliament prescribed that. And how do we know that? Let's go back into the recent history in particular. You had the situation where, let me go right back to I joined the force in 73. Carl Austin was the commissioner then. He died in office sometime around that time. Henry Fraser took over. When Henry Fraser reached 55, he had to retire. Lloyd Barker took over from Henry Fraser. He retired. Then we had Winston Felix took over from McDonnell. I'm going to deal with McDonnell and those persons who were given extension. Felix was born in October. So on the 1st of November, I think it was 2006, he had to demit office, retired. Then after that, we had Silal Prasad. Silal Prasad, the first day after his birth month, out the job. Leslie James, more recently, he born in April, and on the 1st of May 2021, he had to demit when after he attained the age of 55. More recently, we had Api, who sat there before the current man. Api born in December, and on the 1st of January, I think it was last year, 1st of January last year, he is civilian, he out the force. Now, let me make the point here too about to talk about extension before I bring in my colleague. Now, the thing is, if you recall, I think the first person in my memory to have been granted some form of extension by the president was Balaram Raghabi, and he was the substantive appointed commissioner of police. Balaram Raghabi. He ran into some issues and then he demitted office. The next person after him was Larry Lewis. Same thing. Larry Lewis was appointed commissioner. These people weren't acting, they weren't carrying out the functions. They were appointed commissioner. When the government came and PPP came into power in 1992, they extended Larry Lewis for two consecutive periods, until he got to 60. And then they attempted, or they wanted to extend him again. And I remember well, Member of Parliament Debbie Baker raised the issue of the illegality of any such extension, and he was made to retire. Then they put McDonnell. That too was controversial, because some people argue that McDonnell had already passed 55 and he could not have been lawfully appointed as commissioner. That is part of the argument that they had then. And then the next person to have been granted what they call extension, and I'm saying all of these things are illegal because the Constitution says Parliament got to decide on the date, not the President. not the president. This is what the Constitution 211.3 says, that Parliament has to decide on the age of retirement. As I've said now, Parliament decided the age is 55. That is why Felix, the Silal Prasad, James, and all of those people, Henry Fraser, and like, but all of them had to go at 55, right? So then we had Henry Green was kept on. He ran into problems, he got charged, or he was to be charged. He was charged with rape. The High Court ruled, Chief Justice Chan, that he should not be charged, but he had to leave office. Then Bromwell took over from him. I think Bromwell spent a little bit more time over 55. But I'm saying that all of those persons, listen to me carefully, all of those persons who spent a little time more, little or in Larry Lewis' case, almost 5 years more, they were appointed as commissioner of police. They were appointed as commissioner of police, and therefore, I think, they were extended. But I'm saying that if you read Article 211.3 of the Constitution, Parliament has to decide on the date of the commissioner of police. Not no president, not no prime minister, not no service commission, Parliament. So I'm hoping that the liars here are going to listen and are going to follow that up. Right? Let me bring in Mr. Conway. I've had a mouthful on this issue. Let me bring in my colleague, Mr. Conway. What are your views on the fact that the man who sits in the chair there as the commissioner of police has passed his retirement age over a week ago? As I've said, public service rules will have allowed for him or anyone else to work until the end of that month, the end of July. But on the first day of August, all your power gone. You're no longer police, and you cannot exercise any power of your office. What are your views?
I totally agree with you, Paul. And as far as I'm concerned, right now, Ikin is squatting, perhaps like those people who they had at Hillfoot and elsewhere. He's squatting. And I've been running the Constitution, and I haven't found anything in terms of extension of a commissioner of police. I didn't find anything extend or any public service being extended. I don't know where they got that from, but I think Article 228 of the Constitution talk about a person could be let me read Article 228 what it said. It said, where any person who has vacated any office established by the Constitution, include any office established under Article 100, 124, or 225, he or she may, if qualified, again be appointed, elected, or otherwise selected to hold the office in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. So I don't see how really you could really be extended. And then if for the sake of argument that you want to extend somebody, all I feel is not lawful. You got to extend them before they date a birth. Before they date a birth, not after then. And the thing is that in the police force there's no succession planning. We know all along the line that when was the Ikin date of birth according to the birth certificate that he presented. I don't know if they were waiting for another birth certificate with different characteristics. There's no succession planning in the Guyana police force, no career development. We had the issue in Region 10 when that commander retired. He retired, and for days as a civilian, he was in charge of Region 10. There was their brand of civilization of the Guyana police force. And then the same commander would have sent there about a couple days after they remove him, sent him as commander of Region 5. And shortly afterwards, he was the commander of Region 5, 4C, and Region 6. So there's no real succession planning go down in the police force. It's just here scare up thing. And then persons have got to look at the police force and look at career development. And they're not training them. There's no job rotation. There's no job enlargement, as the case may be. They are not looking at training for junior officers, training for senior officers. The last junior officer course that they had, I conducted it, and it's over 10 years ago. The last senior officer course I conducted, and it's over 10 years ago. Hicken was on the senior officer course. That they don't train them. They're not looking. When last year a police officer went to the FBI, went to England, went to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. They're not looking at sustained training, and training before a person reach certain rank. He's supposed to undergo a certain amount of training. General Powell, late General Powell, used to call it the rites of passage. That before you turn a superintendent or a senior superintendent or assistant commissioner, you have to go through certain training programs, and those programs are not there anymore. So for me, Hicken is co-opting. Hicken is illegal, and I don't see why the president has got to be procrastinating. He can reach time for retire and let him go about his place. But by now, you should identify a suitable person or a group of persons that you can choose. I can choose to become the commissioner of police. The constitution is clear. Meaningful consultation with the leader of the opposition and the chairman of the police service commission, who would have a discussion with other members of the commission. You don't have to have agreement like to appoint a chancellor and a chief justice. Appointment of commissioner, there is no agreement. The president, all he has to do is have meaningful consultation with the leader of the opposition and the chairman of the police or the chairperson of the police service commission, who would have consulted with other members. So they know long enough. They saw board circuit, but perhaps they're looking at another board circuit might emerge, which will carry it into maybe when you reach 70 or 75, as the case may be.
You are so correct. You are so correct. And I want to make the point. You spoke about extension. Now, my understanding, you can only extend that which exists. And let me understand this clearly. And you alluded to it, that in order for you to be extended, you have to have an arrangement where even before it ends, and we are saying that there's no legality to that based on the Article 211.3 of the Constitution. There's no legality to that. And for those who are listening again, we have had many cases, long now, well established, from time immemorial, I will say, where ranks who have reached the age of retirement are re-employed into the force as a special, in the special constabulary. So what happens is that once you reach 55, and you have a lot of people, they know this is not no secret, you reach 55, you have to come off. The service done, you get all your benefits, you get your gratuity, you get whatever you got to get 55, because that is what the public service rule says, that you have to retire at 55. Now, if you are skilled, then they re-employ you in the special constabulary. And what used to happen, the practice has been that when you are re-employed in the special constabulary, you come back one rank below which you retired at in the police force. For example, we have said before, the man who now heads the presidential guard, Thomas, he retired as an assistant commissioner. And they brought him back. He retired in 2020. He was on pre-retirement leave when the vice president called him back out to head the presidential guard. But he had to come off the force. He came off properly, and then he was re-employed. And the commission then, because there's a vacancy in this special constabulary for one assistant commissioner, and that vacancy was not filled, he was allowed to get that post as assistant commissioner in the special constabulary. He's not a regular member of the force. He is in the special constabulary. And I'm saying again that with Clifton Hicken, the man who is there sitting in the commissioner's chair, his substantive rank is assistant commissioner of police, and he was made acting under very controversial circumstances. That matter, if you recall, the Chief Justice ruled that it was necessary for him to be appointed at the time when he was appointed, even though there was no consultation with the opposition leader, because our reasoning is that at the time there was no opposition leader. Well, I have a lot of issues with that, because when Hicken was appointed as acting commissioner of police, he took over really from Nigel Appy. And Nigel Appy took over from James, who proceeded on retirement in July of 2020, I think the 31st of July 2020. And RP carried out the functions of Commissioner of Police from July 2020 until when he came off, when he took over from him sometime, I think in March or April of 2021. He carried out about 18 months. And it wasn't necessary then, they didn't see it necessary to appoint RP as the acting commissioner. But that was the Chief Justice reasoning. The Chief Justice reasoned as well that there's no difference between acting, because I remember the lawyers argued that Nigel Appy was carrying out the functions of commissioner. He wasn't acting commissioner. The Chief Justice said, well, she see no difference between carrying out the functions and acting. And again, I have a problem with that, because the Constitution says what are the requirements for an acting commissioner. And it's the same requirements as for a commissioner. Whether you're a commissioner or deputy commissioner, you have to go through the same process: consultation with the leader of the opposition, consultation with the chairman of the police service commission. And I'm saying that in the absence of that process, in the absence of that constitutional process, you cannot be acting. You cannot be acting. So there's a distinct difference between acting and carrying out the functions of. Even though the Chief Justice said she didn't see it that way, but I maintain, I said, I am no liar, but I read and I think I get good understanding of the language, because the Constitution says what should happen for you to be an acting commissioner of police or a substantive commissioner of police. And I will argue that in the absence of that process, you cannot be acting. And therefore, if you're in the commissioner seat, you're not acting commissioner, you're carrying out the functions of. So again, let's see where these lawyers will say and where they will pick them up. I maintain that as of midnight on the 31st of July into the 1st of August, yesterday morning very early, Clifton Ikin is a civilian with no police power or authority. And anything he does, even as a policeman, not as commissioner, even as a policeman, anything he does is unlawful, unconstitutional, ultra-virus. He has no power as a policeman to none at all. Mr. Connery.
I agree. And also a point to note is that when the commissioner demits office, they, as we said, the next person in line in order of seniority, if you want to act, is Dr. Paul Williams. And the Public Service Commission will state that the most senior person must act. Hickens should have been there. Paul Williams is the man who should have been acting. But they throw Paul Williams aside. They send it to COVID-19. Now they send it to Civil Defense Commission. And they have at the Civil Defense Commission, they get Dr. Paul Williams, Deputy Commissioner. They get Assistant Commissioner. They get Senior Superintendent. They get Superintendent doing what? I don't know. So I'm saying in terms of acting, the most senior person, and he's the only confirmed Deputy Commissioner, Dr. Paul Williams. So they're breaching the Constitution and they're breaching the Public Service Commission rule totally.
Yeah. You get one of these amphibians that's coming, you always know who ugly and who ain't good looking. I got a suspicion about you, or she, or it, whatever it is. I get a suspicion, because when you come and the only comment you can make is that a man ugly, we have to have some doubt as to your orientation, I may say. You have to have doubt of your. So stay there and expose yourself. You say your name dancing or something like that. So he always come and you know who ugly. You know who ugly. I tell you ugly, who ugly and what is ugly. If I tell you who ugly and what is ugly, Facebook might ban me. So yes, and again we say, I hope that lawyers, and here let me tell you something. Let me make this point, because you got a lot of fools that come and say all sort of things. This is about the Constitution. This is about the Constitution. This is about the rule of law. And the Attorney General and those people like to talk about the rule of law. And I have continuously said that when they talk about rule of law, they have to define what is the rule of law in the context of Guyana. They must define it, right? So this is not about the personality. This is about what the law says. I read the Constitution. Mr. Conway read the Constitution. I've given you all the precedents, all the people. 55 years, you got to go. You have to go at 55. And as I've said, people have been reemployed in the special constabulary. They retired. And if you were to follow that protocol of being reemployed in the special constabulary, you can come back as a senior superintendent, because the one vacancy in the special constabulary for assistant commissioner is held by Thomas, who is the head of the presidential guard. So you got to come back as a senior superintendent. But let me see how yet again, I'm looking forward to see how yet again they will violate the Constitution. I am looking to see how they will once again violate the Constitution. And I'm saying again, for those people who are listening, policemen and other people, anything that Clifton Aiken, the man who sits in the commissioner's chair, should do from yesterday morning has no legal authority, none whatsoever, because he is a civilian. He like me, except that I retire and get him the benefits and so on. He is a civilian. He has absolutely no police power to act. And again, I say, I hope the liars will take it from there. I know the question is asked, why is it they want to keep a man like Aiken, unqualified as he is, in the office? And I said, it's because when you have incidents like the Daramlal story, you have them to run cover and defense. It is clear that certain persons are put in these positions. We know the man Shiv Baran in Region 2 jump out and taking statement from the rape, the person who alleged Dharamlal of raping. Quick time, within a day or two of the thing published, he taking statement to retract the allegation. And we would have seen what happened to that investigation. And I'm saying that the reason why the government want people like them, because they are pliable. They will do whatever they are told to do. And that is it. There's absolutely no other reason why those persons are kept there, but because of that. They want to have them so that when rape allegation, another allegation of criminal conduct is made against them, you have these people who can run defense for them. And that is it. So, CC, you want to mention anything more on that issue before we move on?
I think we're very, very clear, the total breach of the Constitution, or to use some famous word, flagrant violation of the letter, spirit, and intent of some of the most sacrosanct constitutional procedures in democratic countries. President and most of prime ministers have been impeached for far less. And I close my case.
Yeah, you mentioned about succession. Again, there's clear evidence that there's nothing like that. No career path, no career building. So the man from SOCU, an assistant commissioner, goes on leave for whatever period of time. The person who holds on there is a deputy superintendent. Then you have recently, you saw where a man, a very controversial superintendent at SOCU, who arresting liars because they're advising the client to remain silent. He's now put as a deputy traffic chief. The man is there as a deputy traffic chief, and I have a suspicion that very soon you're going to hear the traffic chief, Stevens, has been removed, and this man, is going to take over. That is what you have. That is what you have. A lot of people just put in position, no training, no competence, they're put there. And then they wonder why things are so bad. They wonder why Guyana has the 7th highest crime rate in the world. The answer. But you get people, you get square pegs in round hole, and that is what you're going to expect. That is what you have to expect. But moving on. The next issue I want us to touch on here, a very very topical issue, is the arrest and charging of former Minister David Patterson under the Sexual Offences Act. People look at this, and let me read. Well, based on what I say, what is alleged. It is alleged that the former minister urinated by some fence, and some person complained. They say he caused the body and all of that. He was the person made a report to the police. The Patterson turned himself in the company of his lawyer, and what happened? They put the allegation to him that and under the Sexual Offences Act, this is not, and CCU will recall that, and this is not now. You have issues where people are alleged to pee in the public. We call it indecent exposure. That is what it was. indecent exposure. Not the first time. And I'm saying this because if you are to go around Georgetown and in Guyana and all, Georgetown in particular, you don't have public convenience. You don't have public convenience. So it is not unusual to see men brace up at some post behind some car or something urinating, because if you take short in Georgetown, you'll see your trouble. And you know, you often wonder how these women does make out. Because if you're in town as a female and you want to answer a call of nature, you'll see your serious trouble. They don't have public convenience and all of that. So you have David Patterson urinating in public, can't do what I say, but he is charged under the Sexual Offences Act. And I want to know how a matter like that, urinating in public, can be elevated to an offense under the Sexual Offences Act. And I read the Act, Section 28 said that you expose your genitals. In the thing, there's no Section 28 yet. But I believe that the Sexual Offences Act requires more than that. This is an indecent exposure, as we say, and it is dealt with under the Summary Jurisdiction Act. But again, the weaponization of the police, the need to cause embarrassment on opposition member parliament, is the reason why he is put there, he's taken there. And then what happened? Bail, the question of bail came up. The man in charge, according to the attorney who took in Mr. Patterson, the man in charge had to get clearance from above to put Patterson on bail. And then when he get instruction to put him on bail, they say he got to be put on $200,000 bail. The lawyer objected to the quantum. The man, and this is what is narrated by the lawyer, he then talked back to his people and they insisted that he has to find $200,000 to go on bail. Mr. Patterson, it is said, then said, well, look, you need some time to go and get the money. That was refused. That was refused. You can't get time. And we're going to talk, as some people say, we're going to talk about what happened to the Dharamlal case. We're going to make the comparison with that and Dharamlal case. He's not allowed to go and get the money. But I need to, before I bring in CC again, we need to make the point that based on what was conveyed in the media, Mr. Patterson wanted to go and get the money so that he can bail himself. Well, I don't know that you can bail yourself. I don't know that a person who is in police custody can bail, or even in the court, you can't bail yourself. You have to get someone to bail you. You have to have someone to bail you. But let me bring in Mr. Conway at this stage to him to get his view. CC, I'm sure you would have been following this part of it. So let me hear what your views are, my brother.
I've been following to the hills.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
I read the Sexual Offences Act, Section 18.1, and I need to read it to people. 18.1 says, a person, the accused, that is in bracket.
18 or 28, I think it's 28, right? 28
1, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Commits the offense of exposure of the genitals if the accused, A, intentionally exposes the genital of the accused, and B, intends that someone will see the genitals of the accused and because alarm or distress. Let me read again. Intentionally exposes the genital of the accused, and B, intends that someone will see the genitals of the accused and because alarm or distress. And let me go into another act. You mentioned it, Paul. Section 162 of the Summary Jurisdiction Offense Act, Chapter 802, it said, anyone who, in any public place or public way or public place or in any house, yard, garden, or other place open to public view or within public hearing, A, uses any indecent or obscene gestures, or B, exposes his person in an indecent manner, or C, causes any indecent or obscene language, or D, signs any indecent or obscene song or ballad shall be liable to a fine, and here's the fine, of not less than $7,500 or more than $15,000. So there's it. You have the law, the Criminal Law Offences Act, the Summary Jurisdiction of Offences Act, and the other act that
I think Mr. Conway got a free. He froze a little there. So I mean, yes, the thing is there. The only reason that this charge can be brought under the Sexual Offences Act, in my view, is because they want to embarrass and they want to elevate this thing to the level of this big criminality. And I've said before, you want to urinate in Georgetown, you're in trouble. And I often wonder, as I said, how the females will make out because there's no public. Well, they are. I know there's one by Border Market, someplace there. You got a public facility. I don't know if you can stand the stench to go in there. But there are very few public facilities around if you want to answer a call of nature. Very few. And it is wickedness in high places to say that a person who decide to go by some fence or somewhere, a man to urinate is guilty of an offense under the Sexual Offences Act. When there is no intention to display to someone, and that type of thing. Nothing at all. You got to pee and that is it. And that is it. And that is the problem that you have. And this economy is right. The Summary Jurisdiction Act, I read it too. Indecent exposure. And on the few occasions that charges were brought for a man who exposed himself, and most times it's a man, exposed himself in the day, is under the Summary Jurisdiction Act. Minimum fine $7,500, maximum fine $14,000. And that was it. That was it. And that the circumstances are no different. The circumstances, and I say again, for you to elevate a case like that to an offense under the Sexual Offences Act, you are really trivializing the provisions of that act, the serious provisions of that act, to say that a man who pee on the road violates the Sexual Offences Act. And I'm saying too that when last week I think we commented on it, the Home Affairs Minister made some comment about public urination. He said the use of indecent language with reference to America and the public and urination in public. He made that. And you wanted to know where that came from, because this man was talking about law and order. And all of a sudden he's talking about something as trivial, in my view, as indecent language and urinating in public. But we now see where he was coming from. We now see where he was coming from. And he made reference to the United States. And let me tell him, because I've spent a lot of time in the States, you are found urinating in public, in New York in particular, you are given a ticket. It's a ticketable offense. You give a ticket that you got to pay indecent exposure. I'm not sure what is the amount, but that is the nature. It's so trivial in nature that you give a ticket if you are found urinating in public. But in Guyana, it's a charge under the Sexual Offences Act. I want you to think about that. And as we said, let's look at the issue. The issue went to the DPP, according to the reporting. This urinating in public. The DPP, with breakneck speed, and there's a phrase that was used by the Attorney General, breakneck speed, recommended that these charges be brought against Mr. Patterson. Breakneck speed. This is the same DPP who a few weeks ago, when there was protests outside her office for Daramlal to be charged with rape, sodomy against this 16-year-old indigenous girl, she made a statement, and I like to talk about the statement, so it's what they said. She blamed the opposition for picketing, and she said she's not going to be pressured. She made a statement that our office has over 1,000, I think thousands the figure she used, files from all the police divisions. And she gave the impression, because of the volume of work, it will take some time. So she didn't give consideration to the prioritization of that Dharamlal matter. And we know what happened thereafter. Shortly after, she sent it back for clarification of some issue. And then, of course, the clarification was no further action. This is the same DPP who, when the David Patterson file went to her, with breakneck speed, she recommend charges. With breakneck speed, she recommend charges. And you want to tell me that these offices are not politicized? You want to tell me these offices are not acting in a very unprofessional manner? Her own statement, she got a lot of work to do, and therefore she couldn't get to the Dharamlal matter. As serious as that matter was, she couldn't get to it. But this one, which is far less serious, even the amphibians will have to agree that this is a far less serious matter. A man peeing in public, but blabber time, charge, charge. And the ridiculous thing, the man is police want to put him on $200,000 bail. He is charged and he's paid before the court under the Sexual Offences Act and for using indecent language and some other thing. How much bail? I think $50,000 bail, 10,000 for one and 10,000 for one. That is to show how ridiculous this thing is. Police insisting $200,000 bail. In Dharamlal, you have to find money. In Dharamlal case, rape and sodomy, $1 million bail, no money lodged. $1 million bail, no money lodged. But in Patterson's case, $200,000 bail, you have to find money to lodge in order to get bail. And you want to tell me that this is not the animal farm? Guyana is not the animal farm, where all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. What more do you want to see? What more do you want to see to realize the reality of this situation, this animal farm situation? I got to speak out about these things, and I made the point repeatedly that today is Patterson, tomorrow is somebody else, because it would appear that once you are not seen to be with the government, they are going to find the police, they're going to use the police to come after you for the most trivial of offenses. The most trivial. And let me make this point. Urinating in public, especially in the manner that some people do, is very disgusting. You drive along the road and some people don't even take care to say they can cover themselves or go behind some tree or some pole, some right in the open. I drive along the East Coast very frequently. And you see it, men stand up right there, and the pee is a disgusting thing. And and therefore, yes, action needs to be taken. But don't tell me that is under the Sexual Offences Act. Don't tell me I would never accept that is something that the Sexual Offences Act catered for. Never. Never. Sexual Offences Act can never have catered for something like that. But I see Mr. Conway was out and he's back in. Let me bring him in. Yeah, CC, what are your continue, please? You were frozen, and then I took you out the stream.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, maybe Pegasus is at work, and the thing is that when you look in terms of bail, here's it: a man walks in there, but then maybe he's not damn lal, and you telling him about $200,000 on bail. Huh? Points to be considered in granting bail: status of the accused, weight of evidence, possibility of absconding, what the Constitution says about bail. Man who comes in to you, you don't have to send fee, and then you're telling him about $200,000 bail. And here's what the standing order say about bail. Standing order number 74, para 2 says, to detain in custody a moment longer that is absolutely necessary any person charged with an offense other than offense concerning which there is a complete prohibition to the grant of bail, such as treason, misprision of treason felon, or murder, is a grievous violation of the cardinal principle. Everything that can be done must be done to make easy the process by which bail can be granted. And also we have there is a bail act, Paul, Act number 21 of 2022. signed by Mohammed Irfan Ali, president, on the 15th of October 2022. I don't know if it's already in operation, but part of it saying the act may be cited as a Bail Act 2022 and shall come into operation on the day the minister may, by order, appoint. I don't know if the Attorney General has order for this act to be enforced. And here's what it said about our bail. It said, where a person is taken into custody for an offense without a warrant, a police officer, if it will not be practicable to bring that person before a magistrate within 24 hours after the person is taken into custody, shall inquire into the case, and if the offense is not one punishable with imprisonment, shall grant that person bail with every convenient speed. And if the offense is one punishable with imprisonment, may, unless the offense is a serious offense, grant that person bail as soon as practicable. And this offense, exposing the genital, is not considered a serious offense by the police. Remember, they do their analysis of serious offense, and this is not one of them. This is a minor offense. So the thing is that bail must not be seen as punishment, and bail must not be seen as a you give a man a 72 hours just because you just want to act as punishment. Bail as soon as practicable. You send the person on bail, and he's not. But then he's not Damlal, where they say they send Damlal on within hours on $1 million bail and no money lodge. So the whole thing is a mockery. And as you say, there's a dog whistle. The Minister of Affairs talk a person urinating, and lo and behold, Patterson became the first victim of the dog whistle.
Yeah. Something that I found very interesting is that this article first, this news story about Patterson first broke in the newsroom. Newsroom is a online. They have an online paper or whatever you want to call it. They first broke it, and they have been breaking lots of police related issues. And you often wonder how they get to this information. And I recall not so long ago when you had the murder of Sir Mars. Remember that, Sir Mars? Newsroom carried a video of the suspect, the murder suspect, what was said to be a confession statement, the video where this murder suspect was actually confessing to this incident. Newsroom carried this thing, newsroom carried it. And they also said at the same time that they saw a statement from the wife of the suspect. They saw a statement, understand this, so the evidence in this murder matter, they saw a statement which contradicts what she was saying on social media. So again, you don't have to be a scholar, you don't have to be a rocket science to find out, just see the link with newsroom, and how is it that they are getting all of this information. So sometimes Patterson exposed, and there's some picture or something that newsroom get it, right? Mars murder, man given, and I want you to think about this clearly. I see some old detective here, Danny and these boys. I know people like many old senior police, Pompey, Pito, and all of those guys. Think about this seriously. Think about it. A man is accused of murder, is alleged to have given a video recorded confession statement. And a news outlet in Guyana is given that statement to show publicly. And the same news outlet is claiming that they saw a statement from the suspect's wife in which she contradicts what she was saying on social media. Think about this. Think where this police force, this weaponized police force has reached. Just think about it, where this weaponized Guyana police force has reached. Think about it seriously. Now, let me invite you to continue to share the live. Share the live. We have big numbers again. As is usual these days, big numbers. Big new people are coming on all the time. Again, I want to implore you to go to YouTube, subscribe to the channel. And I think Because you more and more people are subscribing to the channel is getting more and more popular and is reaching more and more people. Because people, the feedback is I get either in person or on the social media, people say that they find this thing so interesting, so much so that they are hounding us to do the program more often. People are suggesting that maybe twice a week and all of that. I said we're gonna consider that because we are here to please, we are here to bring you the valid, credible information. So yeah, share the life. We have passed an hour and we're gonna go a little more because we get some stuff. As I said, we have more to tell you about. Now, moving on, recently the police launched what they call Respect the Road campaign. That big thing, with the Road Safety Association, the minister, they say they're launching a campaign, and I think the name of the campaign is Respect the Road. Well, buddy, first of all, when I hear about campaign, I have always said campaigns don't work. I was a traffic chief on 2 occasions in Guyana. And I used to tell them, those people who work with me would tell you, don't tell me nothing about campaign. The enforcement of the laws must be something continuous. If you break the law, you should enforce the law. Not only when you get a campaign, then you pulling in minibuses and you're doing all sorts of things during the campaign, because the campaign is going to run for a few weeks or a few months, and then it's back to square one. I made the point that the lawlessness has become cultural, is a cultural issue on the roads and elsewhere in Guyana. Even this urination in public that we talk about. People do it all the time, and they single out David Patterson for charge. If you go down now around the place, I am sure that within half an hour or so, you're going to find somebody peeing on the side of the road, peeing on some post or something like that. You're going to see that, right? And the story with the road is this thing has become a serious issue in Guyana. All categories of road users. People have no respect for the rule of the road. They do all manner of things. And that is part of the problem. And they talk about this launching of you must respect the road, and I see they're dealing with white light, and they're dealing with all kinds of things. Those things are not going to last. Those things are not going to last. Because one of the main issues that they have not addressed, I hear they don't want to talk about this elephant in the room, that a lot of people will say is the main cause for the chaotic state of the roads in Guyana, and that is corruption. Corruption in the process of acquiring license, corruption in the process of, and the evidence is there. We have seen in the news where people are charged criminally for corrupt practice involving driver's license. People from the Guyana Revenue Authority charged, police sergeant and other people charged. You get a report from the audit department of the police force which spells out all the corruption in the loaner driver process. And they're talking about enforcement, and they're talking about education, and they're not addressing this issue, which is a main issue, the corruption in the process, how people acquire their license. And even when they're on the road, you pull over. People talk about it all the time. Some are going to be malicious. But the general feeling is that police stop you. And if you can negotiate, then you get off. That is the general feeling. And let me say this again, because when you say these things, people say that you're attacking our police. You're not attacking our police, because I am convinced that they are hardworking, honest, conscientious police ranks out there, including traffic ranks. Sometimes you see rain falling, and those ranks are there directing traffic. That is commitment. One of the problem is poor leadership. You don't have proper leadership, and therefore, once you don't have proper leadership at the very top, things trickle down, and all other chaos and unlawful act will take part down below. But I'm saying that if you want to address the traffic situation in a very holistic manner, corruption and the process to acquire license, the numerous allegations of pass something there, left a thing with the boys, and those things have to be addressed. Those things have to be addressed. Mr. Conway, let me bring you in. What are your views in terms of that?
Well, like you, I will start out with corruption, the elephant in the room. And I always have to refer to that audit and inspection report by my friend Rohan Singh, a former head of the Presidential Guard, a man of integrity. And he submitted his report and he concluded that 1,157 persons who did not go through the process obtained their driver's license, and he referred to them as potential killers. Maybe they're not no potential killers, they're real killers. So 1,100, I think 157 have been let loose, didn't go through the process. And recently, I read an article by Mr. Kit Nascimento talking about the situation on the road, talking about the situation on the road, and he made a very, very damning conclusion, and he talked about corruption by members of the public in order to obtain their driver's license. He said from talking to persons, he got the impression that they did not go through the process to have their fully driver's license. He said that apparently some of them obtained their driver's license without one day driving a vehicle. And the thing is that I did my own research, Paul, and I found that there's persons who are facilitating persons to learn to drive. 90%, over 90% of those who went there to learn to drive already got their driver's license. The corruption is there. And if you don't address the corruption, the carnage will continue on our roads. Will continue on our roads. Will continue our roads. The thing is that I see they make an attempt, they're saying to have a holistic approach. What happened at this symposium is just talk and talk and talk, and nothing really comes out of it. All must be involved, and this is my call to commanders. Commanders must get involved in traffic situation. They must get involved in traffic. Let me give you my experience, and I'm going back to corruption. When I took over command of B Division, Bobby's Division, there I discovered with the theoretical examination, I discovered that West Coast Barbies had the brightest people in this country. The pass rate for the theory was 90 something percent. And I say that got to something had gone wrong there. So I put my own systems in place. And after I start change around people and do rotation, I discovered that the percentage dropped down to in the 60s, the mid 60s. And even the practical driver's tests, I can always recall that at Springlands had the best drivers in this country. Because I had a system in place where I see that every week I must have a return of those persons who are programmed to do the practical tests, and those persons and the results after the test. And the thing is that I discover Springlands used to get 100%. And as a commander, I call the rest of the rounds. I say, I don't care where you do it, but I mustn't see no 100%. And he started to send back results 100%. And he told persons that He is the certifying officer, not the commander. The commander can't give nobody license. It's only he could give person license. And I made a firm decision. I transfer him. I move him from Springlands to the Oriel and the Quarantine River. I think it's about 60 miles away. So I give him an opportunity for him to certify boats. He came to me, said, so give me a little 2 months. No, I said, I'm going to find you floating in the Quarantine River because you're taking the people money. So the point I'm making that you as a commander has got to get involved in the traffic situation also. Don't leave it to the traffic ranks. We have a good traffic officer, the traffic chief, but they're giving him water to fetch water basket to fetch water to bathe ducks that swimming in the pond. Of all persons, they send Ramana. Ramana, who I know is general powers of arrest. They send him as the deputy traffic chief. And even before that, we said we are adjusting they're adjusting the traffic situation. Even before that, the traffic officer had to relate the next man to him at traffic headquarters was a sergeant. Nobody in Keiki there to give him any assistance. Romano has no technical, is technical, is human, and his conceptual skills about traffic management, I say so my point, is poor, poor, poor. And he's gone there, another attempt to Indianize the department and branch of the Ghana police force. They're sending Stevens on leave, I think from next month. And when Stevens leave expire, he ain't getting back there. Is Romano, a man who ain't get no technical, human and conceptual skills about traffic, is piss poor. Sorry to use that word. So what the traffic people should be doing is that they should establish an integrated traffic information system. Get all the information coming to the center there and get competent people to do analysis, proper analysis, so you'll have real time situation of what is taking place on the road. Their decision must be driven by data. We call it a 3D approach. Data driven decisions based on the data, and the data should include among things the accidents, the time, the date, persons involved, and a whole set of other information should be there so that you can analyze it. And based on that analysis, you utilize your human and other your human and other facilities to deal with the reality. It's good to hold symposium, but what happened after the symposium? Talk and talk and talk. They got to be action, and I say all must be involved. Ask a general duty constable or general duty officer, when last you made a traffic case? Ask him, and the answer will be, sorry, I can't tell, I can't remember. And if all are not involved, the situation is going to get worse. Or in country days, we used to say it's going to get worse or worse. So I'm saying that the decisions or the action to be taken must be driven by data. And the traffic chief must get the adequate human and other resources to deal with the situation, or the madness will continue on our roadway.
The madness will continue on our roadway. And you made a point just now about the traffic, the general duty ranks getting involved. I can tell you based on what people are saying, the ones on the motorcycles riding around the town, oh, they are very much involved because they stop people all the time and ask for documents, and then allegations are made. But let me you made the point about what's going on. Let me show our viewers the clip of the lawlessness. Remember we saying you have to address lawlessness. Here, this is number one. Look at this. B, let me show that one more time. situation is that the president, who was out of the country, was due to return, and they were going up there to perform duty. And I'm not aware of all the circumstances, but what happened is that there was an accident between the police vehicle and a truck. The driver is injured as well as the commander. Don't know how seriously injured they are. They were rushed to the hospital. But you see, the vehicle is extensively damaged. Extensively damaged. And I have said, and I want to make this point here before I show you the next clip. The police, again, I don't know the circumstances of this accident. I'm not blaming the police. I'm not blaming the driver. But I'm saying from experience, police have been driving too dangerously, too recklessly. They abuse the use of the warning appliances, siren, and flashing light. Almost every vehicle you pass now, driving around Georgetown, East Bank, East Coast, and this place, they have the flashing light. And you would see the ridiculous situation, light flashing, and then they stop at some traffic light, which shows that they are not on any emergency duty. Why then are you using the emergency warning devices? Why? And I'm saying that this is all part of the problem, to see police speeding down the road with vehicles when they have, there's no emergency, none whatsoever, but they're just driving fast. Put on siren, people must clear the way. Put on flashing light, people must clear the way. Again, I say, I'm not saying that this is what occurred this morning, but I'm saying it occurs very, very often. And anyone who drives around Georgetown, East Coast, East Bank can attest to that. Next video. Look, lawlessness.
Stop at parking like that. In front of the face, people sitting here. You don't have respect for people, man. Oh, God. Put it right in the video. Right. All right, the guys are like saying that. You just stop it.
Sure, do that. You do that. You're gonna be on Guyana Daily News in the morning.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, no problem.
Yeah, sorry. You have picture me there?
Cool.
Lawlessness. The next one. Let me show you the next one. You see, that is what is going on. Let me show you a next slide now with accident again. Look. This is this. Look. Let me show you the first one. Look. This is this morning. Again, we show the video of that. This is a still picture. Look at the size of that truck. That is what the police vehicle became involved in. This is the commander there. And let's say I want to take this opportunity to wish both the commander and the driver a speedy recovery. And I hope that this is used as a lesson to all the ranks. You have to be careful on the road. And let me say this too. Let me say this point, because I don't think they know this. This is the damage to the vehicle. But let me say this, that even when you have on your siren on the vehicle, even when you have on your flashing lights, the law is that you still have to drive carefully. A siren blazing, whether it's an ambulance, whether it's a police vehicle, whether it's a fire service vehicle, you do not have license to just drive dangerously, drive through traffic light, drive through intersections. No, that is not the way it is done. Even when you have your siren on and the flashing light, you have to approach intersections, you have to approach traffic lights with caution. That is the law. That is the law. So let me understand this thing clearly. But somehow, police who are driving police vehicles, other vehicles as well. I remember the fire service driving up a one-way sometime and struck and seriously injured a vehicle. They were going to some emergency and they decided they want to drive up a one-way. And without any consideration, they struck somebody who's driving, going in the correct direction. but that does not give you the right to be dangerous on the road. So let's understand it. Let's understand it clearly. And then, of course, the accidents continue. Um, we have here 2 construction workers die in a fiery crash at Dudley Public Road. That was early in the week. Today, yeah, earlier or over the weekend. Vehicle burst into flames, people died. 2 persons, 2 construction workers. Then we had one where a cyclist dies in a Broad Street accident, Broad Street in Georgetown. Then we had one reported at Perseverance and the Essequibo Coast where a tailor died after falling off his e-bike. And then the serious accident I referred to this morning. And again, they are going to cock the figures. They are deluding themselves because even the figure they gave some time ago of the number of fatal accidents and fatalities on the road, a couple of weeks after the thing reduced, so I don't know, they gave one figure and then the thing reduced a few days after, because they are trying to manipulate the figure and fooling themselves. They are fooling themselves. Let me bring in Mr. Conway. Conway, you just saw the accident there with the commander this morning, and those are the lawless behavior, and that is what is contributing to the lawlessness on the road. Lawless behavior. If you have a lawless culture on the road, you're going to inevitably have more accidents and more deaths.
I saw it, and I want to wish the commander and that constable speedy recovery. But I just want to backtrack briefly a bit. I mentioned earlier about a letter in the press by Mr. Kit Nascimento, and he outlined the process to have a driver's license. He outlined the theory and the practical test. It was in July 29 on Saarbrück News, and here's part of what the man said. I've, however, investigated the process and found from personal conversation that many fully licensed drivers have been able to avoid taking the practical road driving test by bribing police officers and receiving a license. This means that the obvious result of the practice is that there are some drivers on the road who may have never actually driven a motor vehicle before becoming fully licensed. You're talking about the corruption to obtain a driver's license. And I believe the statement, and he have not debunked that statement. And coming back to the accident, the one at Dundee Myconi, they're saying it's an incident. It's not a fatal accident. It's an incident. And the other one in the scribble said they might fall off the bike, so there's no accident. There's an incident. So if they're ghosting, if they're like cocking the figures, they mean the analysis what they might want to do would be flawed. They're not truthful to themselves. And that's the whole thing. They want to look good. They want to sound good. They're cocking the figures. They're cocking the figures at all. And even I listened to the Home Affairs Minister at the symposium, and he said that he wants to be very satisfied that if they have 5 fatal accidents every month, they would be good because they would come on level with last year's stats. The minister is satisfied with 5 fatal accidents per month so as to level off with last year's stats. Even 1 is too much as 5. But the minister saying 5, okay, we comfortable with 5 so that we can level off with last year's stats. But how could we solve the lawlessness on the road when we get in those kind of directions coming for a minister? If there is a policy statement that 5 for the month is okay with us.
Yeah, he said 5. I read the thing too, and I had to laugh. I said, well, look, there is a policy. Keep it down to 5 fatal accidents. Imagine a country with less than 1 million people in it. The minister is saying that he can comfortable with 5. So if you got 5 for the rest of the month, you're talking about 30, 40 more fatalities, people who losing their life on the road. We have countries with comparable population don't even get 10, 20 fatal accidents all year, and the minister saying he's satisfied with that. That is what you have. That is the level of incompetence that you have at that level. So what do you expect? What do you expect, right? So the thing, as I've said, they continue to fool themselves. So as I did not see, but I am not surprised that they would say the Dundee is an incident. 2 persons died on the road. There's an accident on the road. A man riding the bicycle on the road and he dies. It's not a fatal accident. That is what you have from these jokers. I always remember one that stood out. The number 19 public road, where men driving, coming down. Apparently there was some carcass on the road. They struck the carcass, went into the trench and died. And that is not a fatal accident, according to them. That is not a fatal accident. So they are fooling themselves. They are fooling themselves. And I know that they have people now, in the media in particular, who have taken to compiling their own figures because they cannot rely on the figures that has been given by the police. They cannot rely on it. They are ghosting. They are fooling. And they're not fooling people. They are fooling themselves. Go and tell the relatives of the deceased person that Dundee Myconi accident, oh, it's not a fatal accident. Go and convince them that it's not a fatal accident. And that is what you find happening. And again, staying under the minister's portfolio, 13 passenger boat destroyed Vidinoop fire. I think it was yesterday morning. 13. These water taxis, they call them, the passengers boat. 13 of those vessels, I think is the correct description. But up at Vidinoop selling yesterday morning is every week is fire. Is every week is fatal accident. Is every week is murder. Because again, talking about murder, you hear they have a thing, I think I read it this morning. Bicycle bandits rob and kill Guyanese re-migrant. That's Saturday night, Regent and Wellington Street. In the heart of Georgetown, Regent and Wellington Street, bicycle bandits attack, kill a remigrant. And then you have yesterday, paper woman remanded for stabbing a man by the Linden car park and killing him. Then you have a next thing, wanted bulletin to be issued for killer, man named North Killer, over the death of a security guard. Some story with the security guard. There's a security guard and a security guard. The man took out a firearm that he had and shot this next one in his neck. He died a few weeks after. They ain't get yet. So they haven't issued no wanted bulletin for yet. But if you're the P, or if he was a member of the opposition demonstrating, wanted bulletin would have been there for him a long time now. And then this morning, news is reporting that a Mazaruni shopkeeper killed by a co-worker. So it's every week. It gives me no pleasure to bring this thing, but they are hiding these things. So therefore, people got to know what is going on. This is a man, the remigrant. He lived for how many years in Venezuela? He decided to come back home. Going to some shop in Georgetown Saturday night, the bicycle bandit attacked, robbed, and they killed him. Stabbed him, he died. The Linden minibus park, some play thing with some man and some woman, she stabbed him, he died. And that is that you have a very violent place. And that is why when the World Statistic Report said that Guyana has the 7th highest crime rate in the world by per capita, it is a damning statement. And despite what they are saying, you have only 2 weeks ago, the United States issued a travel advisory to its citizens about traveling to Guyana and discouraging them from traveling there unless you have real business to do. That is what is happening. So they can jump around. President can tell you how good a job the man who sits in the commissioner chair doing. The statistics does not support that type of thing. Runaway murder figures, runaway fatal accidents. In terms of the Ministry of Way, fire all the time is fire and olag and fire engine. That's what you got in all the time. That is what is happening. And people comfortable with it. So the minister comfortable with about 5 fatal deaths a month. He comfortable with that, and that is what you have. CC, that is what you have. Yeah, with this all these murders and the boats burning up and all of this.
Yeah, they do all of the day. And you left would want to. drugs.
Oh, well,
Trade,
yes. Well, those things are not serious crimes,
Okay.
because when the police talk about serious crimes, according to their statistics, the categories of serious crimes, it don't include drugs and all of those type of things.
True.
It doesn't. It doesn't include that. It doesn't include that, right? So let me move on.
Yeah.
Let me move on. There is one here series, CC, that has really caused me some concern. It reads, I think it was yesterday, trio freed over murder of man in 2012. According to the story, there was this murder. A man was killed. 3 men were charged with killing a man during the course of a robbery. They went to trial and they were found guilty. They appealed the guilty sentence, and they were then a new trial was ordered. A retrial was ordered following the this new trial. Now the matter is dismissed, and the reason why it is dismissed, because the police, this is the thing, failed to establish, well, not only the police, the prosecution failed to establish nexus. The prosecution failed to establish nexus. And we know that in murder, in causing death cases and such like, nexus is an important thing. If you can't establish nexus, you cannot prove the case. And what is nexus? For the young policeman, take out your notebook, man, or go your thing. Nexus is a connection of a series of connection into more than one thing. Nexus. And according to what I've read, let me read certain part of this thing by the judge. Very alarming. Very alarming. I have it somewhere. Let me. Oh, here it is. And this is what the judge is saying. No, sorry, I don't have the right thing here now. But let me bring him, Mr. Conway, and I'll find it to discuss it with you. See, non-nexus. You can't prove nexus in a murder case. How do you expect to get a conviction? And here again, I say not only the police to be blamed, but one would have thought that the prosecution, the prosecutors, the person who prosecuted the case would have seen that and be able to establish the nexus. See?
Well, you don't have good investigators, Those are basic things that somebody has to identify the body. Some relatives or friend or somebody has identified the body, and you have to give the evidence that I went to so-and-so place where I saw the body, and you describe the body, and if there are any injuries, you mention about the injuries, and somebody that is basic thing, that I don't even want to comment on them, that those little things, identification of the body, they give evidence and nobody can say who is the body. No, who is the body? It's so ridiculous. And then you have the DPP. What is the role of the DPP? That file has to pass through the DPP. The DPP has a battery of liars, and they can't pick up that basic evidence there in terms of identification of the person, identification of the body, that this body is Conway, this body is Paul Slow. When it was identified by John Jones, and when I check it, it had a wound on the left arm or elbow or some way. And even if the person is alive, you give the evidence during the journey from there to the hospital, the person received no further injury. Those are basic things. But perhaps we don't have good investigators about the place. And also the DPP has got to go through that thing. Has got to go through finally, just like how they was to go through the Amdal matter. They should have gone through. That is a murder. But Paul, things just going haywire.
Yeah, sad. And the sad thing about this, as I've indicated before, this is a matter that went to trial some years ago. The 3 men were convicted. They appealed the conviction, and a new trial was ordered. So you had enough time to make sure. And here, what the judge had to remark, with the prosecution failing to establish the identity of the person said to be murdered, these men, they call the name, were discharged of the crime and set free. Then some remarks from the judge. The judge said, before whom trial was conducted, said that while there was testimony of an autopsy having been done on a body, there was no admissible evidence as to its identity. So yeah, you get a body, but nobody identify, no admissible evidence as to the identity. Then he go on to say, against his background, she said that there is no nexus between the person that Randolph Ned, who testified to being a friend of the deceased, said he had taken from the scene, and the person that the pathologist performed the autopsy on. She go on to point out, she said that Ned provided no description of his friend, whether by ethnicity or otherwise. She said too that there was the evidence of policeman Winston Singh, who testified that on the night in question at the hospital, Xavier body, that is the deceased man, was pointed out to him. She go on to say the judge said that the police officer they Singh did not, however, say who had pointed out the body to him, while noting that in any case, to have said so would have amounted to inadmissible hearsay. She goes on to point out, more importantly, Justice Ramlal pointed out, however, that Singh himself never testified to having known the deceased and further provided no description of the person he saw. The court said it observed that there was no nexus between the person that Ned took to the hospital and the man that Singh said he saw there with an injury to the region of the left armpit, while noting that Ned never described any injury he saw, whether by location or of the body or otherwise. I mean, those are basic things. And here, let me, for the younger policemen, let me explain this thing. Based on the evidence, this man was stabbed at some bar or somewhere. He got a friend named Ned, took him to the hospital. At some time thereafter, policeman Winston Singh turned up. Winston Singh is a detective, I think it's the same body at Soku, who was involved in the arrest of the liar and all of that. So you could see these people incompetent. He goes to the hospital. He's shown this victim. How you come to know the victim? He said the man point out the victim or something like that. But you got to establish clearly the link between the person who took him to the hospital, the person who took him there had to have identified him properly to Singh. Singh in turn would have been required to be at the postmortem when the man died to identify him properly to the pathologist that this is the same man. So that nexus is there between the man who was stabbed and taken to the hospital, the person to whom Singh would have interacted, and the person on whom the postmortem was carried out. And to see that this detective, and as I said, them things is basic things. To see that a case of this nature could have gone down the drain because no nexus, according to the judge, was established is an indictment against the police force and against the CID and these ranks and against the DPP's chambers, because the DPP, in a case like this, the prosecutor would have had a duty to make sure that these things were brought out. So when you say, well, how did you identify this person? Who pointed this? All of those questions are to be asked and answered by the witness. Will appear, and that wasn't done. So the judge had to direct the jury to return a verdict of not guilty. Can you imagine that? And this is a force where they say, according to the president, his Caribbean counterparts are still how good they working and so on. See, again, you've been in training. Can you imagine that a detective, and this, you don't have to be a detective sergeant or corporal or officer, this is basic detective duties, basic at induction course, you are taught these type of thing, huh?
Paul, that file, something had to pass through the subordinate officer, the detective officer, the commander, the head of the CID before it reached there, and it's basic thing you give. And even further that, after the PM, you give evidence that you witnessed the burial and you mark the grave by its location or the person was in tomb or some place, the body was identified by somebody. You have to give, those are basic, straightforward investigation, and it passed through all the various layers, and nobody could have seen or they don't turn back no file. It's just, as you say, conveyor belt up and down. Nobody and look. And then the thing is, since 2012, now the case tried.
But the second trial, because remember 2012, they had a trial, and they were found guilty, and they appealed.
Yeah.
It went to the appeal court, and the appeal court ordered a new trial. So this is the second trial, really. So that is why that would have accounted for all the time. Because they were judged before, found guilty. They appealed that, and then now the new trial, no nexus is established between the person who was injured and the person on whom this postmortem was performed.
Even a second trial also too long, far too long.
Well, I agree. People incarcerated for all of this time, and but again, as I said, apart from the police, the prosecutor, whoever the prosecutor was, must share some of the blame. Must share, because in trying to establish your case, you have got to bring these points out. You as a prosecutor have to ask questions to bring these points out from the witness. You can't just allow this to go like that. And CC, I got a picture I want to show you for you to explain as we're moving on. Continue to share the live. We are almost at the 2 hour. Let me share this picture and ask the goodly people in here. I want you all to explain this to me, man. This is a function where you have the heads of services. I see the person to the far right look like Prime Minister, but I see a woman there in civilian clothes. How can somebody in civilian clothes? The people who know protocol, military protocol, and these things should try to explain, because I can understand that how a female in civilian clothes is sitting there among the heads of service in the front row with the Prime Minister. CC, can you explain that?
Is she a member of the joint services? Is she the head of the joint services? You mean what happened with the protocol? I know for sure that the order of precedence is that the head of the army should be on the right, followed by the commissioner of police, and I think then the prison service or the next one there. But what woman doing there? What is a woman doing there? And nobody there. I as the head of the joint one of the services. No woman can come and sit down between there. Quietly, madam, you have to find another seat. Or even the organizers would say, this is the seating arrangement. Chief of staff, commissioner, blah 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 blah. In that thing, it's ridiculous, and this foreign standards, and they appear to be very comfortable there. I don't want to know who is she, but a woman.
Well, they appear to be very comfortable indeed.
Yeah. A woman in the midst there. Goodness gracious, God help the joint services, man.
No, the protocol's gone through the window. Now let me show you next picture. We were very we were talking about the minister. Let me show you this picture, man. Let me go. We last week before the last look. This is the Minister of Home Affairs last weekend. They left at the police athletics championship. He presenting a trophy there. In the one in the middle, he's taking the march past. And the one to the right is some other occasion, I think something with fire service. This is the man. So the man actually got what we would call a little respectable clothes, short jack. Man has on a long sleeve short jack to the right. Then the short sleeve short jack. But then when the man has no sense of occasion, because when you have the police march past for the anniversary, look how the man dressed. Look how the man dressed. So again, let me show you the other picture. So you can't say that the man, unless he went and he bought it since then. But this is last week Saturday at the Police Sports Club, the short jack, to present trophies at the Police Annual Athletics Championship. In the middle, he's taking the march past from the athletes. And on the right, long sleeve short jack, somewhere, I think some fire service thing activity. But when you have a route march involving thousands of police ranks marching past on the occasion of the anniversary, this is what the minister chose then to wear. He has no sense of occasion. He has no sense of occasion. The man get on the back down pants and some polo shirt there and so on. We gotta reveal these things. You gotta bring these things out. So I want you all to look at it. And then in closing, CC, I saw a report in Starbrook News, I think it was, recently, that which says that Charandas Prasad is still on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs payroll. The disgraced former High Commissioner to India, Charandas Prasad, is still on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs payroll. I couldn't believe it. And then when I read the article, I think when I contacted the Minister of Foreign Affairs, he said, well, the man get some contract or some crap like that. But even before you want to tell me that you are going to, a person going to get a contract, doesn't have a provision for the contract to be terminated for misconduct, as in the case of Shanda. So you might have to continue to be paid until such time that the contract comes to an end. I can't understand this. ICC, can you explain this?
I can't explain it, and then when you look at it, Charandas brought down a whole government in parliament, a whole duly elective government, and you know what brought him down? A bitch, a slut dog brought him down. But I can't say he brought him down because he's still on payment. He's still receiving salary.
Yeah.
Still receiving salary. The contract doesn't have any clause for misconduct or termination of the contract. But this guy, not a real place.
Yeah, not a real place. Now, my brother, your closing remarks.
All right, I just want to say that, and I'm concerned about traffic, I hope they will take the proper steps, that they move off from this symposium, that they have a holistic approach for the madness that is going on our roadway, that they give the traffic chief the necessary support in terms of human resource and other resources so that we can put an end to the madness that is going on our roadway. There are things I want to say, but let me just stop and just deal specifically with the traffic situation. And I may not want to, because it's on my mind. There are too many financial irregularities going on in the Ghana police force at the highest level. Perhaps next week, I'm going to highlight some issue, particularly with construction of female quarters at Uleri, at TSU. Too many financial irregularities, and the Ghana police force can't audit itself. And a senior man can't say, when you see me signature, you act. Don't ask no questions, don't query nothing. Whether the votes get money or not, me concerned with it. If I say this can happen, it must happen. Too many financial irregularities happening at various sections in the police force. Region 1, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are the main culprits, plus headquarters itself. That's all I want to say.
Let me say this to in closing. Again, I would like to urge you to be safe. The dengue fever, last week you reported that dengue fever on the rise. And I want to close by saying this again, as I started, in terms of the constitutionality of Clifton Aiken sitting in the commissioner's chair. I know the spin doctors, especially those that are weak down the leg side, and those who have an affinity to that German car manufacturer, I'm referring to Volkswagen, they come with all kind of things. But let it come. I am dealing with what the Constitution says. I am dealing with what the public service rules says. And according to the Constitution, the public service rules, Clifton Aiken, Assistant Commissioner of Police, Acting Commissioner of Police, who attained the mandatory retirement age of 55 on the 22nd of July this year, on the 1st of August, yesterday morning, on the 1st of August, he ceased to be a police rank. he ceased to have police powers. Anything that he does is unlawful, unconstitutional. And I say this too because I read earlier Article 211.3. The president has no authority to extend the services of the commission. And then you can't extend that which has come to an end. Extension implies that even before you come to an end, you say, well, continue. But in this case, it has ended as of the 1st of August 2023. It has ended. And therefore, I said again, the protocol is that you come off and they may seek to re-employ you in the special constabulary, some supernumerary position you can be given. But Clifton Ikin is no longer a police rank. I ain't talking about commissioner. He has no lawful police authority as of the first day in August. And I would hope that if they attempt to unlawfully keep him there, that the lawyers will do something about it. We have to respect the Constitution of Guyana. This government has shown scant regard for the Constitution. I took them to court and the judge so ruled. Justice Gino Prasad on the 24th of March ruled that the president acted unconstitutionally. And there have been other actions that have been challenged, unconstitutional action. And therefore, I will say that anything that he does, if Ikin does from yesterday morning onward, unconstitutional and should be challenged in the court, should be challenged in the court. Because again, I say, it's about upholding the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. That's what it's all about, the supreme law of the land. So I'm hoping that the lawyers are listening. I'm hoping that they will take the appropriate action to have this matter dealt with. Because let me understand this thing clearly. And I'm looking out to see what unconstitutional move they will use to try to keep Ikin in office. Anything they do is unconstitutional. Because as I've pointed out, I took pain to point out that the persons who have benefited from extension were commissioners properly appointed. And again, you might want to question the lawfulness of that, right? But according to Article 211.3, it's Parliament. You have to decide on the date. And I've gave all the examples going way back to 1973 or thereabout, all the way to the last substantively appointed commissioner, Leslie James, who had to retire on the last day of his birth month. He became 55, I think, in April of 2021. On the first day of May 2021, he was a civilian. That is it. That is it. So I hope that somebody's going to take it up. And all I can say before I close, again, I urge you to stay safe, not only from dengue and those things, but, you know, we talk about the traffic accidents, the numerous traffic accidents that are occurring. And comrades, you have to be safe. You have to be safe. And having said that, God spare life. Next Wednesday, which is going to be the 9th day of August 2023, God spare life, at 11 o'clock, I will see you here again for us to deal with another program of exposing corruption and incompetence. Until then, let me get my music. Until then, stay good, stay safe, and see you at that time. Bye.